There's a version of faith nobody teaches you. Not the kind you say out loud, not the kind that sounds right in a quote, the kind that actually costs something, the kind that asks you to put your hands down, to stop fighting for what you want so desperately, and to trust that what's being prepared for you is already on its way. But that kind of faith, that's the hardest thing in the world when you've spent your whole life being taught to push, to hustle, to make it happen, to never stop trying. Because deep down, there's this fear that the moment you stop forcing, God will forget about you. That the moment you ease your grip, everything you've been building will fall apart. But here's the truth that nobody tells you. That's not faith. That's fear wearing the mask of effort. And it changes everything once you feel the difference. You see, you cannot outwork God's timing. You cannot force open a door He hasn't prepared for you. And you cannot build anything lasting when you're running ahead of the plan He already placed inside your heart. Think about how exhausting it's been, how many nights you stayed up trying to calculate the next move, trying to think your way into the right outcome, trying to hold together something that maybe needed to fall apart, trying to fix something that was never yours to fix. And somewhere underneath all of that effort, there was this quiet voice, just barely audible through the noise you were making, saying, "Let me handle this. Stop. I've got you." But you couldn't hear it because you were too busy trying to handle it yourself. And so you kept going and kept forcing and kept wondering why it felt so heavy. Because here's what nobody explains. Forcing isn't strength. Forcing is what happens when you haven't fully trusted that something bigger is already working on your behalf. And that's not a judgment, that's the most human thing in the world. Because from the time we were young, we were taught that results come from effort, that love must be earned, that if you want something badly enough, you just have to push harder. And so you did. You pushed, you planned, you showed up exhausted and told yourself that exhaustion was dedication. You stayed in places you should have left. You kept knocking on doors that were never meant to open for you because slowing down felt like falling behind and trusting felt like doing nothing. But here's the truth that most people spend their whole lives missing. Letting God guide you is not passive. It's the most powerful thing you can do because it takes more courage to surrender than it does to force. It takes more strength to say, "Not my will, but yours," than to white-knuckle your way through life trying to manufacture outcomes. Think about the things you forced the relationship that was never really flowing, but you kept pushing through it. The job you tried to convince yourself into staying at. The version of your future you built entirely from fear. How did those end? Not the way you planned, not the way you hoped. Because what you force doesn't stay. What you manipulate into place shifts the moment you stop holding it. What you control through anxiety falls apart the moment you look away. But what God ordains, what He builds, what He places in your life through the right timing, that holds. That doesn't need your panic to sustain it. Because it was designed for you, not manufactured by you. And that's the difference most people never get to feel. The difference between something you forced into your hands and something that was placed there. One always feels like work, the other always feels like grace. Here's something few people tell you God speaks. In the stillness, not in the noise you create when you're trying to make things happen. Not in the constant mental spinning, not in the anxiety underneath your planning. Not in the lists and the timelines and the strategies you're building from fear. He speaks when you go quiet, when you actually stop, when you put down the weight of what if and what next and let yourself just be here for a moment. But most people never reach that stillness because they've convinced themselves that the moment they stop trying, everything will collapse. And so they never stop, and so they never hear, and so they keep walking in circles, wondering why they feel so lost when the guide has been right there the whole time, waiting for you to go quiet enough to listen. Here's where it gets deeper. The reason so many people force things in life isn't because they're faithless. It's because deep down, they don't actually trust that they're covered. They don't trust that God sees them specifically, knows them specifically, cares about the exact details of their exact life. And so they take over, they become their own provider, their own protector. They try to be the answer to every question before the question has even finished forming. And that kind of living is exhausting, not because you're weak, but because you were never designed for it. You weren't made to figure everything out yourself. You were made to follow someone who already has the whole picture. And the moment you actually believe that, not just repeat it, but feel it settle into your chest, something releases. Something that has been wound tight for years begins to slowly soften. The grip you've had on everything starts to open, and life, real life, begins to breathe again. Think about this. How many of the best things in your life were things you planned exactly? Exactly of the doors that genuinely changed you did you force open yourself? And how many arrived in ways you never saw coming? Through a conversation you didn't engineer, a moment you didn't manufacture, a connection you couldn't have predicted if you tried. That's not coincidence, that's God working in the space you weren't trying to control. He's always doing that, always weaving, always preparing, always moving pieces into position that you can't even see yet, but you only experience it after you stop trying to move them yourself. And here's what most people miss. Every time you force something, you're not just draining yourself. You're interrupting a process that was already underway. You're stepping into the middle of something being built and trying to finish it faster than it was designed to be finished, and wondering why it keeps coming undone. There's a reason a flower doesn't try to bloom faster. A reason a season doesn't force itself into being. A reason that what's meant to reach you moves toward you at the exact pace that prepares you to receive it. Because sometimes the delay isn't punishment. Sometimes the silence isn't distance. Sometimes the door that won't open isn't rejection. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes it's preparation. Sometimes it's God saying, not yet. Not because you've done something wrong, not because you're not worthy, but because what's coming for you requires a version of you that isn't fully ready yet. And arriving at the right thing too soon, before you've grown into who you need to be to hold it, means losing it, or arriving there broken, or discovering that it wasn't actually what your soul needed. And here's the truth that will shift the way you see everything. If it's meant for you, it cannot miss you. It will find you, not because you chased it hard enough, but because it was written for you before you even understood what you were looking for. Real divine alignment doesn't need your panic to function. It needs your faith, your openness, your willingness to walk in peace, even when the answer hasn't arrived yet. Let's be honest. Trusting God feels unsafe when life has trained you not to trust anything. If you've been let down before, if you've prayed and waited and the silence stretched longer than you could handle, if things fell apart in ways you didn't see coming and weren't prepared for, trusting can feel like standing at the edge of something with nothing beneath you, like stepping out over open air and being asked to believe the ground will be there. But here's what no one says out loud. You were already at that edge. You always have been, because life has never actually been in your control, not for a single moment. The only difference was whether you were pretending it was, or whether you were choosing to trust the one who holds it all. And trust. Real trust isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward in faith, even when fear is loud. It's waking up without all the answers and still choosing peace over panic. It's watching something fall apart and quietly knowing something better is being built in its place. It's releasing what was never yours to carry and opening your hands for what actually is. And when you start living like that, things shift. Not overnight, not without doubt, but steadily. You stop trying to convince people who were never meant to choose you. You stop forcing open opportunities that don't belong to this season. You stop mistaking anxiety for ambition and exhaustion for dedication. You start to hear the difference between a door that's opening and a door you're trying to break through. Because they feel different. They've always felt different. You've just been too focused on forcing to notice. Think about the last thing you were trying so hard to make happen feel. The energy underneath that effort, was it faith or was it fear? Because fear says, I have to make this happen or everything will fall apart. But faith says, I will do my part and trust God with the rest. And that shift, that one quiet internal shift, changes everything about how you move. When you're moving from fear, you push, you over-explain, you say yes when everything in you says wait, you rush timelines that haven't matured, you mistake desperation for determination. But when you're moving from faith, you show up fully. You work hard, but you don't strangle the outcome. You trust that your effort and His grace are working together towards something greater than you could ever build alone. And that's when you begin to see things differently. The pieces that seem scattered begin to connect. The delay that felt like punishment reveals itself as protection. The path you thought was closing was just rerouting. You start to understand what it means to be led, not driven. To be carried, not dragged. To be prepared, not rushed. And the people who have lived long enough inside that kind of trust, they carry something you can feel from across a room. A calm that doesn't make sense given what they've been through. A peace that seems impossible given what they're still waiting for. A quiet certainty that isn't blind, it's rooted. Because they're not trusting life to give them exactly what they want. They're trusting the one who knows what they need. And those are entirely different things. This isn't about doing less. It isn't about becoming passive. It isn't about sitting down and waiting for everything to resolve itself while you fold your hands. It's about doing your part fully, with everything you have, and then releasing it, letting it breathe, letting God finish what you can't finish. Trusting that what's being done on your behalf in the unseen places is more than enough. Because here's what someone needs to hear right now. If you're tired of forcing, if you're exhausted from white-knuckling your way toward a life that keeps slipping through your fingers, if you've been running so hard you can't even remember why anymore, it's okay to stop. Not because you're giving up, but because you're choosing something stronger than effort. You're choosing trust. Stop trying to be the architect of every single moment and let the one who breathed life into you actually guide the life He gave you. Because here's what happens when you genuinely do that. When you loosen your grip and say with your whole heart, I trust you with this. Things begin to move not because you force them, but because you finally stop standing in their way. The right people arrive when the wrong ones finally have space to leave. The right paths become visible when you stop filling every silence with your own noise. The right version of your future starts to take shape. Not the one built from fear, the one built by grace. And somewhere inside that movement, you find something you had almost forgotten, peace. Not the kind that comes after everything is figured out. The kind that exists even when nothing is, yet. The kind that holds you steady while the ground is still shifting. The kind that says, whatever is coming, I am ready. And whatever isn't meant for me, I trust you to take it. That life is available to you. Not someday, now. Not after everything is resolved, right here in the middle of it. It begins with one decision to stop forcing, to stop treating every delay like abandonment, to stop making God small enough to need your help managing your life, and to start trusting, really trusting with open hands, with a quieted mind, with a heart that's willing to be led somewhere better than you could have planned. Because He hasn't gone silent, you've just been so loud in your striving, you haven't been able to hear Him. And maybe in this moment, He's saying exactly what you've needed to hear all along. Let go. I've got you. Stop running ahead. I've already been there. Stop trying to figure it all out. I already know, how this ends. Trust me with this, with all of it. And when you can finally say yes to that, when you can breathe in that space between the question and the answer, that is when your real life begins. Not the forced version, not the anxious version, not the one built on willpower and fear and proving yourself. The one that flows, the one that breathes, the one that was always yours, arriving not when you forced it, but when you were finally ready to receive it. If this reached something in you today, if you're ready to stop forcing and start trusting, drop the word guided in the comments below. Let's see who's choosing to let go, not with weak hands, but with open ones. Your next chapter doesn't start when you figure it all out. It starts the moment you trust the one who already has.